Yeah, it's your boy Girl here back with another video, and today I got a special video, guys. Man, today we're gonna be talking about the top 5 game-changing units in Dragon Ball Legends history. Now, this is gonna be a really interesting video because it's not gonna be about like the top 5 units that's like right now and everything, because you guys know basically 4 of them are Sun Family units, and then you can add whatever on number 5. But it's gonna be about units that I felt like when they came out, it was so good to the point where the Legends, the devs had to kind of rework like a battle chains or just nerf them to the point where they felt balanced, because when they first came out, they were just so overwhelmingly good and people were just so sick and tired of these units that they had to kind of find a way to change them. So I'm going to talk about the top 5 units and basically discuss what made them so good around their meta and what made them so meta around that time and everything. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into the video. So for number 5, I'm kind of debating number 5 and number 4, but I think this has to be number 5. And when I tell you the person that's number 5, you guys will probably agree. So let's talk about Purple Bojack. Now, Purple Bojack was he was toxic, bro. This guy was really annoying, and you guys basically kind of know why. It's really because of just one main reason. It was really his mechanic. Now, Purple Bojack has arguably the best cover change in Legends, even today. Like, this guy still has the best cover change, and they never made a unit, ever since he came out, they never made a unit that had a better cover change than him. Because this guy cover change was basically infinite. This guy never had any cooldowns, no penalties, right? He had no penalties anytime he used this cover change. Like, say for example, like Super Saiyan God Zenkai Vegeta, right? Every time he uses cover change, I believe he gets like a +2 sub count or everything. Or say for example, these other units where it's like they're only for strike cover changes, or they're only for blast attack cover changes, or they might have universal, but only for 2 times, right? They never had, or even say for example, just like an instant transmission type of cover change, right? But they can only use it once, or they can only use it twice. This guy cover change was endless, right? This guy cover change was endless. The only thing that he could have really cover changed at the time was Rising Rush. That's the only thing he could do. So blue cards, blast cards, green cards that does like maybe like a dash attack, he could cover change. Ult cards, some of the ult cards in the game, he can nullify as well. This guy could basically cover change against anything, bro, and it was so annoying because he was basically the best defense. Like, say for example, you got PB, or say you just get in combo, you just throw Bojack in and you just, say you basically just do that and make sure you have a purple, because he can combo off a purple. And you basically had no bad trade-off with this guy every time you cover change with him, because yeah, he does give, I mean, his bad trade-off is he does give you a little bit of some partial damage to your ally that you do cover change with, but your ally is going to take more damage if you let them on the field anyway. So it's like you'd rather give him like the little damage that your ally gets compared to the combo that he was about to get from the enemy, right? You'd rather have like the minimum damage than the more damage from the enemy. So it was a really good trade-off. Now, this guy was just insane, and they never made a unit that had a better cover change than this guy, even in today's meta. Like, because he came out before 2nd anniversary, so he came out, it's about to be like 2 years since he came out. And yeah, they never made a cover change unit that was so good compared to him, and it was an issue, bro. It was an issue because he could basically cover through anything, and it was so annoying to face. And it was to the point where this guy was so good, it didn't matter what team he was on, people just used him as their purple unit because he was so good. Saiyans, because he just had universal cover change. Just any team you put him on, he was just good because of that cover change, and it was a big problem. So what they did now is they have a lot more abilities where units with cover changes nullify special cover change, and if you come in, like, you nullify special cover change for a couple of times, like Vegeta Blue or Jiren. They added a lot more units that can nullify against special cover change, so that was kind of their way of battling against this guy and other cover changing units. But it was really for this guy, I believe, and if this guy gets a Zenkai, he won't be as busted. Like, he will be really, really good. Don't get me wrong, but he wouldn't be as ridiculous as he was once because there's a lot more units that can nullify cover change, but it depends on what team you run. So, I mean, if he does get a Zenkai, he will be still really, really good because it's infinite still. And they never nerfed the unit, so they're not going to nerf his cover change abilities. So, yeah, that's why I put him at number 5, and hope you guys kind of understand why I put him at number 5. So, let's get on to number 2. Now, number 2. Let's get on to number 4. Now, number 4, I'm going to say this guy. I'm going to say Vegeta Blue, and it's not because of just how powerful he was. Like, that's not the reason, because like there's a lot of powerful units that came out during this game. Like Super Vegito came out, right? But he's not. I don't have him on the list as FYI. Reason why I put this guy on here is the fact that he was able to chain combos for so long, which was a big deal because back then in Legends, around the 2nd anniversary, you couldn't switch out when you was taking an attack. You could only switch out one time. You couldn't switch out multiple times like you could do now, where say for example someone brings in the red, you counter with a blue, and then they bring in the green, you could counter, say for example, with another unit. Say you have a purple, but back then, say for example someone had a red and you changed it with your blue, then they brought in a green, you couldn't switch out anymore. And this what made Vegeta Blue so good is because he was able to chain in so much combos, and if you didn't switch in to a color changing unit, by the time he was doing his damage, he basically was one combo your units. He was farming a rush in one combo because he just generated so many strike cards and there was so many Dragon Balls. Like, it was insane how fast he got his Rise and Rush as well. And say for example you did go in with your green, right? You just go in with what? Zamasu or Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, and you Rise Rush that green, and he basically has no color. Nobody can really color counter against them, which was so annoying to face because if you cover change with your green unit, you can't switch out again because you only did it one time. So I feel like that factor when they made a balance change, a battle system change where you can switch out multiple times when you're getting your attack right. So I feel like that was because of this guy, because he was able to chain Rise and Rush so much. I mean, he chained Dragon Balls really fast with Rise and Rush, and that the fact that you couldn't cover change multiple times, this guy was able to just really take advantage of that. So if you came in with your green unit early, he has a rush, you just switch into a purple unit, Rise and Rush that green, and he was perfectly fine. You wasn't going to bring a red anyways. So yeah, that's why I feel like he was number 4. Really solely for that reason, the fact that he was able to chain in so many cards. You couldn't switch in to multiple units when you was on the receiving end of the damage, while the offense could change infinitely while the defense person couldn't, which was pretty dumb. But now they changed it, which was it's good now because I feel like it was because of Vegeta Blue and Kefla, but I really think it was more of Vegeta Blue than Kefla. But them two together was ridiculous. So yeah, that's why I have him number 4 as a game-changing unit, because of that, the fact that he was able to change, and the devs made it to where the defense, the person that's taking the damage could switch out multiple times instead of that one time like they usually do. So that's why I have him at number 4. So number 3, I had this guy at number 5, but then I realized I missed one mechanic about him, so I bumped him up to number 3. And it is Purple Broly. Purple Zenkai Broly. Not the Zenkai, but when he first came out. This guy was ridiculous. And I'm gonna break it down why. So there's a lot of things that he introduced in the game. He was the first sparking unit to have blast armor, I believe. The first EX was Yellow Frieza. I think Yellow Frieza came up before him, but he's the first sparking unit to have blast armor. He's the first unit to have card draw speed, because back then card draw speed, there wasn't no such thing as card draw speed. And what they basically did was you could chain combos longer with, like, say for example with the hybrid meta, when you had green Goten and purple hybrid purple Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, you was able to chain in like 7 to 9 cards, like without no card draw speed. But what they did was they kind of took away the amount of cards you could generate during your side step, and they made it into a mechanic, right? Like an attribute upgrade for units now. And Broly was the first unit to have that gave him card draw speed on his unique ability. He was the first one to have that. He was the first one to have blast armor. Then he was the first transforming unit, I believe, and he was the first unit to nullify against color disadvantage, I believe. So he had four new mechanics when he first came out, which was ridiculous. Transforming unit, basically, he can increase his base stats to have insane damage, right? Card draw speed, so he's able to chain combos. Blast armor, which was insane. And I'm gonna talk about why his blast armor was insane and what they did to nerf it. And then nullifying against color disadvantage, which means like if you brought a yellow, it didn't mean nothing for him for a couple of times, depending on how many times you switched and fought against a yellow. Now I want to talk about the blast armor, because the blast armor, some people didn't understand that. Say for example, you dodge, right? And you say you tapped and then you reset. Someone would do a blast. You could go in with blast armor and then do your damage, and after you do your damage, you would get your Vanish Gauge back. Now, if you use blast armor, you don't get your Vanish Gauge back, but every time after your attack was over and you use blast armor, you was able to get your Vanish Gauge back. So basically, Broly could really stay in the field forever because he was just so dominant as a unit. And you couldn't really do nothing about it because he was able to get his Vanish back. Every time he took damage, he got stronger. He had card draw speed. His base stat was insane. This guy introduced a lot to the game. I feel like he is top 3, and maybe you could even put him top 2, bro. You could even put him number 1 because he was just so dominant when he first came out, and you just needed to summon for this Broly. Like, he was arguably the best. He had so many new mechanics. This guy was absolutely insane when he first came out. So that's why I put him top number 3. You could switch him around, but he definitely is top 5 game-changing units. Now let's go to number 2. Number 2 is Namek Goku. Not Zenkai Namek Goku, but when the first time he came out. The reason why I put him here was they basically he was so good and he was so annoying to face when he first came out that they basically made a whole battle system change because of this guy, because of how good he was. Now you guys know Namek Goku biggest thing is the whole counter thing. When he first came out, all you basically did was backfloat. Like, someone to now or people just stay in the long range, it was actually worse because people was actually backfloating backwards. Say if you even try to like go forward, all you did was just go backwards, bro, and you basically just maintained the long range distance. But now, if you just sat there and started to backfloat and using long range, you get penalized and you start losing your Vanish Gauge. But when he came out, there was no penalty when you was backfloating. So you could basically backfloat forever and you had no penalty because of that. And also his mechanic is one of his unique abilities, like the longer he stays in battles, the stronger he gets. So you basically just backfloat the whole game and no one could really do nothing besides just do a blast. And once you did a blast, you just counter it with the blue, do massive damage. It was ridiculous. People just hated the game because once you saw Namek Goku users, all you saw them do was backflip throughout the whole game. You thought Super Saiyan 3 Goku was bad, like the LF1 or some of these units now, this guy was even worse, bro, because you literally couldn't do nothing. You couldn't even go up to tackle because all they did was backfloat. No penalties, no nothing. And if you did manage to get in the long range, they was ready with a strike card because they know that you're going to try to like tackle or anything, right, just to do something. If you didn't do a tackle, then you just got countered. So this guy was just ridiculous. People hated the game when he came out, bro. He was so annoying, and it was a unit that you need to have because all you did was counter. So that's why I have this guy at number 2, because you guys have to understand if you guys was there, basically. So that's why I have him number 2, and then number 1, FSK, Zenkai FSK. He got his Zenkai. He's the best unit of the game. He's been number 1 for over a year. There's no unit ever in Dragon Ball Legends history that was number 1 for this long. You could think about some of the best units in the game, right? Purple Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, Red Super Gogeta before Zenkai, Purple Broly, LF Super Vegeta, Red FSK before he got his Zenkai, Namku, Green Super Saiyan Blue. Like, there was so many good units, but they never dominated. They never been number 1 for a year straight, because all of them got power creep. Gohan has been the best unit for a whole year, 365 days, and it's still counting. He's been the best unit. This Zenkai was game changing because they never made a broken Zenkai as him ever. Like, you guys could say, 18 was one of them, but 18 was not the best unit for a whole year. 18 was really good, but 18 is nowhere near Gohan. Even now, like 18 is, a lot of people are putting 18 at S tier and stuff. This guy has been #1 for a whole year straight. Like they never, like some people thinks that like LL Super Saiyan 3 Goku was better, was #1, or Purple Revival Gohan. No, this guy is #1. The fact that you can come back for a 3-1, you can be down 2 units and still come back and win. The amount of damage he does with his blast attack is ridiculous. Nullifies against cover change. I'm not nullifies against color disadvantage. This guy just does so much damage. Like it's not even the fact that he has any nifty, unique abilities. It's just because he does so much damage that it makes no sense. And it was to the point where Legends basically kind of Zenkai'd every blue unit for every team, and people are still using this red Gohan because he's so good, regardless of how many good blue units is in the game right now. Like every team basically has a really strong blue unit, and it was because of this red. Because they're like, all right, we need to make sure every team has a really strong blue unit against this guy, and this guy is still destroying them. Like they still have no answers, and I felt like they had never made a Zenkai unit as strong as him ever since they released him. And they never really did nothing. So I feel like this guy is #1 game changing. Like just his Zenkai alone was ridiculous. So yeah, this is my top 5. I feel like it was a really good top 5. Bojack, Vegeta Blue, Broly, Namco, and FSK. I really feel like these were the top 5 game changing units in my opinion. Comment down below who you guys think. There is some good ones, like say for example Green Bardock because of his lock in, but there's a lot of units with lock in and all that stuff. So comment down below who you guys think was the top 5 game changing units in your opinion. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and McGriff, man. And I'm out. Peace.